Okay, hey class. All right, welcome to week 5. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful holiday. I hope you feel rested and ready to get back into it. Okay, so this week, not the most fun. But once we get this out of the way, then we will be able to do all of the rest of our assignments much faster. For some of you, perhaps our economics majors, this may actually be fun. And so here you go. But this week, you have to create a targeted demographics report. Sounds exhilarating, doesn't it? Actually, it is kind of fun because you're going to kind of blend here using psychology to meet data to kind of give us a understanding of who our audience is. All right. So I'm going to read from your assignment, and then we'll go into it tomorrow during the session. So this will be a nice, very short video at the beginning of this week, so to make you all happy. All right. So in order to successfully communicate any idea to an audience, you must know your audience. Knowing your audience is to know as much as you can about who your audience are or is. Who is your audience? Who are these people that you're trying to reach? We're talking about advertising. So this is mass communication. So oftentimes our audiences are going to be very large people. Most companies are not creating an advertisement for one person, unless that person is maybe Bezos or something like that, right? Who your audience are is a series of demographics found through what we call market research. Your demographic, your targeted public or your audience or your market, these are all interchangeable words, all right? They all kind of mean the same thing. They're your audience. Your target or your targeted demographic, or if somebody says your market, what they're talking about is a group of people that you are relying on to be the people who are going to buy the most of your product or do the most with the information you give them, give you as much money, whatever it may be that you're working towards, right? And whoever your company is. But who are they? Luckily, this information is everywhere and very, very easy to find through a little bit of research. I have given you 3 resources that you need to look over this week that are going to help you, show you how to get into this and how to start to kind of look and piece these things together and what to look for. All right. The most common things that we talk about when we talk about demographics are gender, male, female, or other binary genders, right? There's lots of different genders now. Now, this might be more important or less important depending upon which culture you're in, but whatever. Gender, race, religion, age, socioeconomic status. Uh, what does that mean? That means how much money do they make? What type of home or family are they from? How do they compare to other people in their region and the world, right? If you are from, let's say you're from Kurdistan, all right, and you grew up you grew up very, very wealthy in Kurdistan. You may move to Paris and find out that you're not quite as wealthy, right? So it's not about who you are in relative to Paris, unless you're making an advertisement for Paris. But in reality, it is what is your how do you see yourself, right? So did you grow up very hungry and having to find food, and there was lots of danger, and you didn't know where you were going to live every day, and you were homeless or something like that? That's going to be, or that's going to be something that would stick out as influential to how you perceive the world, right? So your socioeconomic status is the type of wealth or lack thereof that you were raised in, right? Or that the people that you're targeting generally have. If you're looking for Americans between the ages of 35 and 50 years old, you can find how much expendable income or money they don't need for necessities they actually have, right? And it might be, let's say it's a $10,000 a year, right? Whereas you may find that people in Costa Rica have only about $1,000 a year for such things. Or someone in China may have $1,000,000 a year for such things or something like that, right? And so that's what we want to be talking about. That's what we're looking at when we're talking about socioeconomic status. what is the how much does people need to participate? How much generally should they have in the bank to be able to afford the things that I'm talking about or do the things that I'm talking about, right? If I'm talking about Cadillac SUVs, those are very expensive, right? Or Mercedes Benz or something like that. My targeted demographic is not poor teenagers. They don't buy a lot of Mercedes Benz. Rich teenagers might, but probably not as much as rich, Westerners or, Germans or Americans between the ages of 45 and 60. All right. But you need to be able to find that information. And if you check out the materials I gave you and you come to my lecture tomorrow, we should be just fine on how to figure that stuff out. Okay. So that's socioeconomic status. What are their buying habits? Buying habits are just what I said. What do they most commonly buy? What are the things that they often purchase? When do they purchase items? How often do they purchase items? And where, do they go or something like that for these, right? So that's their habits, right? In America, Americans love to give presents. We buy things. We're a materialistic, capitalistic society. And so we tend to show affection and love and appreciation through purchased things, right? And so that's our buying habit. That's one of the habits of Americans. We buy stuff for others to make ourselves feel good, which may or may not be something that you enjoy doing. But culturally, that's some of our habits. Preferred media usage. Where do they see media? Do they watch a lot of television because they're old? Are they only ever on their phones because they're young? Are they on a blend of listening to the radio and the television and podcasts and things like that, like my age group? What is their preferred media usage? What do they like to sit in front of a TV, a laptop, a phone, or nothing at all, or the radio or something? What are the platforms that they use? So when we talk about platforms, what I'm usually talking about is social media, okay? So, and that's what I'm referring to in this instance. What's the social media platforms that you would be able to reach your audience on? Best platform for saturation versus best platform for information. Okay. Saturation versus information in advertising is essentially how much of something versus how much I actually need to hear it, right? So to give you an example, most of you are not going to read, well, maybe you will, but I'm not going to read an article about a new pair of Nikes coming out. That isn't something that I need to be informed of, right? However, I like Nikes. I enjoy tennis shoes. I think they're cool. And I inevitably, every few months, end up knowing about the new Nikes that came out. Why is that? It's because of saturation. So everywhere that I went on the internet, I saw advertisements for these new Nikes. Every show on television, people were wearing these new Nikes. Every basketball game I watched during the NBA finals and playoffs, they had advertisements for these Nikes, right? So if I'm trying to get my public to buy something or to know about something or to, pop culturally type of thing, then I want to be concerned with getting it out as much as possible. However, if I'm trying to inform my audience about something, if I want them to know all about climate change or, early childhood diabetes or, something, if I'm trying to get information that they need, then what is the best platform? Where do these people go for trusted information, right? So, for instance, I spend time on Facebook to socialize with friends, and I'm on Twitter or Instagram and socializing and doing other things. And that's a great place to find me for saturation. But I don't get my information from those places. I get my information from NPR or the BBC or those are the places that I trust for actual, or AP or Reuters, right? Those are the places that I actually trust. And so those are the platforms that I go to for information. So think about this as an advertiser. If you're trying to get all of this out, are you trying to inform someone and you need them to spend a lot of time with your information, and what's the best outlet or place where they can do that? Or are you just trying to get to as many platforms, where are the platforms that they spend the most time on that you can just place ads that will eventually sink into their subconscious, and all of a sudden a 41-year-old man who doesn't really buy that many tennis shoes knows all about the brand new LeBron James sneakers that came out or whatever, right? That's saturation. Okay. So what your report should detail is where your audience and current customers conduct their product service research. We'll talk about that tomorrow in class. Which of your competitors or your target audience looks to for information? We'll talk about that as well. But your company has other companies that it directly competes with in their industry, and we want to know who they are because what they do we're going to copy or we need to be prepared to respond to oftentimes. We'll talk about that tomorrow. As always, this is like the closest thing to the word of God or the highest order of information that you can get. In this advertising class, you're always going to have to find your industry trend. What are some trends? What's going on? What's trending in your industry? Who makes up the market and what their challenges are? Market means audience, remember? So who makes up your audience that you're trying to sell something to or you're trying to get to change their mind or whatever? What are their challenges? If they're old, what's the challenge? They're not good at social media. They're not going to be able to reach them through places that you may be able to get other people. They're babies, so they're illiterate. So you got to go to their parents, right? You can't sell, you don't sell information or give information directly to babies. Whatever it is, what is it about it that makes it a tough thing to get through to them, right? So what gets in the way? For young people, it's attention span, or trying to get, deep information or get them to dive really deep into a brand or to whatever your advertisement. All right. So that's what we mean. And this is going to be paramount to actually being successful is finding the challenges of your audience and then demonstrating that you have responded to these challenges with your design elements that you, or with your, be able to respond when you create your projects and give, the information back to them, right? Show them that you paid attention, you understand what barriers are there for them, and you've alleviated those in some way. All right. What influences the purchases and conversions among your target audience, right? So how do I get you, when I say conversion, I mean, how do I get you to go from being an Android user to an Apple user, all right? What influences the purchases? So when do people buy your product? Is it every single time a new one comes out like Apple? Or do people buy your product because of seasonal changes? Do people buy your product or want to hear you now because it's an election year in America, right? This is the type of stuff that we're talking about. And of course, as always, what are the best platforms for reaching them, right? Demonstrate to me that you've done your research, you know how to find these people. Format your report according to the report template that I have provided, and there's a link in your assignment. All right. So yeah, not a whole lot this week. So, not a tremendous amount of work to do this week, but tomorrow's session is going to be very important for fully understanding everything you need to do to create the targeted demographics report. And then once we're done this week, pretty much everything after this will be much more fun and interactive and everything else. All right. Questions, comments, or concerns, as always, please reach out. Otherwise, I assume that you know exactly what it is that you're supposed to be doing. All right. Have a great week, everybody. See you tomorrow.